In today's world, young adults are more educated, more connected, and working harder than they ever have before. However, millennials and Gen Zs are finding themselves in a very difficult financial situation. Why is that, and how did we get there? We are taught from a young age to work hard at school, get good grades, go to college, get ourselves a job, pay into a pension or a 401k, and we will be financially stable. And yes, that may have worked for previous generations and our parents or parents' parents, but now that's simply not the case. If we look back 30 years or so, a college degree was a ticket to an amazing job. A single salary could buy you a house, and saving for your retirement was simply just part of the plan. Today, however, a degree puts you in mountains of debt, a six-figure salary barely feels middle class, and home ownership feels like a distant dream. And I wanted to dig into some of the things that are contributing to this. All of these things are influenced by the amount of money that we earn and the salary that we take home every month. If you look at salary growth, it has been on an upwards trajectory for decades now, and it is probably likely that you are earning more than your parents did. So why are we finding ourselves in such greater financial difficulties? Well, the reason for this is that, yes, you may be earning significantly more than your parents did, but the inflation that we have seen from general cost of living has also outpaced salary growth. I read a really interesting article from The Telegraph recently, which detailed that the number of 100k earners in the UK has doubled in the last 6 years. So more people are earning six-figure salaries than ever before. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, those people have it great. They're rich. And yes, if you looked back to the year 2000, earning a 100k salary in the UK would sit you within the top 1% of earners. However, in 2024, you would now sit in the top 5% of earners, because a 100k salary back in the year 2000 is actually worth the equivalent of £53,600 in today's world. Nearly half. When you start to understand this in a bit more detail, it becomes quite clear why there is a narrative around millennials and Gen Zs being the poorest generation. The sorts of questions that start to be asked are, why am I struggling to pay off my student finances when my parents were able to do so on minimum wage? Or why am I struggling to rent this tiny apartment when my parents were able to buy their first house in their early 20s? The disparity is huge. Let's focus for a second on student debt. In the 90s and early 2000s, it would typically take a person around 10 years to pay off their student loan, with it averaging at about 4 to 6% of their monthly income. Today, however, that repayment period has more than doubled to on average 20 to 25 years. And not only that, it's taking up a greater proportion of their monthly salary, with on average sitting at around 10 to 15%. And the kicker with this is that 40% of millennials and Gen Zs now hold a college degree, compared to just 25% of baby boomers. Having a degree used to make you a shoo-in for a job. It set you apart from competitors. Now, however, it just gets your foot in the door. It is a simple case of supply and demand. There are so many more people now that have college degrees that it doesn't make them special anymore. So millennials and Gen Zs have to stand out in some other way. Now, let's talk about home ownership. Similar to the likes of going to college and getting yourself a degree, we are conditioned to want to purchase a home, to own our own property. And if this is something that we don't achieve, it is almost viewed as a negative against us. The problem is, purchasing a property now is harder than it has ever been, and the impact is on the millennials and Gen Zs. Back in the 90s, the average age for purchasing your first property was around 28. However, for people trying to purchase a property in today's world, the average age is more like 36. So what has caused the 8-year increase between the 90s and now? And the simple answer is that there are more barriers today than there were 30 years ago. In previous generations, house prices were more in line with the average income, therefore meaning that people could afford to purchase homes without taking on huge mortgages or also requiring a dual income. But today, house prices have vastly outpaced wages, making it near impossible for millennials and Gen Zs to purchase in many areas. And I wanted to just put this into perspective for you. Between the year of 2000 and 2023, house prices increased on average 120%, whereas if you look at salary growth over that period of time, that has on average increased around 50%. So you can see where the shortfall is coming from. A key thing that is also a huge impact on the way that Gen Z and millennials live today is the way in which they work. 30 years ago, most people had some kind of secured job. They would work for an employer, work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or an equivalent, and earn a monthly salary. The market has changed a lot over the last few years, and something called the gig economy has started to become much more prevalent, with many people seeing a shift away from secure 9 to 5 jobs to freelancing or contract work. And yes, there are many people that have chosen this route through their own choice, but there are also many people that have been forced down this route due to not being able to gain a secure job and having to take what they can in order to make ends meet. There are many benefits of working in the gig economy. You get greater flexibility, you get exposure to more diverse things and experiences, but there are also a lot of negatives that come with it as well. Naturally, because you don't have a stable job, you don't necessarily have a guaranteed income every month or a consistent income each month. You also don't receive employer benefits and have minimal protections too. For example, having to fund your own healthcare and your time off. And a big one too, when planning for your future financial security, is missing out on 401k or pension benefits. It's very easy for people working within the gig economy not to make proper plans for these sorts of long-term future financial goals. This is why we have also seen the rise of the side hustles. It's seen as a necessity for people to be able to bring in additional income into their bank accounts each month. And typically, millennials and Gen Zs will have more than one side hustle going at a time. Now, I've talked about a lot of the difficulties and challenges that millennials and Gen Zs have or will come up against during their lifetime. And there is a popular assumption that millennials and Gen Zs will just wait it out and inherit their wealth from their baby boomer parents. And previously in older generations, that may have in fact been the case. Often children would inherit their parents' properties or other valuable goods, but with lifespans continuing to increase, people living longer and spending more money on their healthcare costs, this significantly decreases the amount that we as children will inherit from our parents. And this gap between expectation and reality can leave some feeling disillusioned. If you are a millennial or Gen Z sitting there watching this video, it's important to recognise that the world has changed since previous generations, and it will continue to change as we go throughout our lives. You need to be making longer financial plans to compensate these changes. Reinvent yourself and be the one that is making change. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.